Hi, and welcome to Awaken with Elisa. I just finished Self Care Sunday, so you may have seen the beginning of this clip when you were at Elisa Marie Designs. I want to make a little note card to add to a gift for my cousin Michael, who actually turned me on to Everyday Dose when I was there in Florida. And he collects Starbucks mugs from all over the place. And I have two of them that are from the Italy line. And I was telling him about it, and he was like, "Oh God, I would crawl over broken glass for those." I'm like, "You don't have to. I'll give them to you." And so I am getting that ready, and I got him some coffee, and I don't even know what the heck is in that box. I threw so many things in there, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to make a little handmade card that I could put into the box. And I'm using my washi tape. You guys know I have an overabundance of washi tape since I bought washi tape and really don't use it anymore. So I'm doing a border kind of a thing with the washi tape. And I'm going to just measure, that's the stamp that I want to use. So that particular block I'm going to make to fit the size of that rubber stamp. And each additional block I'm going to just, put lines, just willy-nilly, where I feel like it. And when I taught this class when I was in New York, what I did was I had an artist tape. So artist tape would probably be a little bit better than washi tape, because if you're going to use any kind of medium with water, it won't lift the washi tape. This one did a pretty good job, I have to say. So, I mean, it still lifts a little bit, but it was no big deal. And what you would do is, if you want to practice different kind of mediums, this is a great way to do it, so that you could use those blocks to pick up all different kind of mediums and test them out in each block. This particular paper that I'm using, I actually got this in the dollar store. It's from Jot, and it is superior. It is so thick. It handled so much water. It did a great job for $3, and it's a full ream of paper. The watercolors that I am using are from Temu. I actually unpacked all this stuff on Elisa Marie Designs. I didn't know I was going to go into a little art session, and I didn't want to attach that also to Elisa Marie Designs, because it just plays around with the algorithm, and putting Self-Care Sunday on Elisa Marie Designs already causes its own problem. I didn't want to, start now with an art class. And A Weekend with Elisa is, I think a perfect spot for it, because we are experiencing spirituality really here with different forms of creativity. I am a student of the artist way, and the artist way is creativity as a spiritual practice, written by Julia Cameron maybe 30, 40 years ago. I don't even know what anniversary she's celebrating now, but I have been a student of the artist way, basic tools. I even taught the artist way when I had my own cafe in New York. You can, once you complete the course, you can form your own creativity circle, and you can teach the course. Everything that you need is in the back of the book. I love this anniversary issue that I have, because it is not only the artist way, it is two other books by Julia Cameron. It's Walking in This World and Finding Water. So the two basic tools of the artist way of recovering your spirituality and also your creativity is to get up every morning. And you may have heard someone talk about the artist pages. I think once you adopt artist pages, there's just no turning back, and you it kind of becomes like it's a part of you. And when you meet others that have done the artist way, like it's all they can talk about is the artist pages and the breakthroughs in creativity that they've had. And You just get up in the morning, stream of consciousness writing. It doesn't make sense. It's not high art. It's just, I'm going to do a brain dump. I'm going to siphon off what's on the top of my head right now, even if it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you write in longhand and you don't abbreviate, and you start to, maybe in the beginning, when you start your pages, it might be very fast, because I think once you know the benefits of doing the artist way, and artist pages, you want to get to the meatier part, and so you're brain dumping everything that's laying on the top of your brain. You're siphoning it off so that you can get to those juicier bits, much like your diamond painting. You want, some of us save a pivotal part of our diamond painting. We want to get to that juicy part, and that's what happens. And the second tool of the artist way is the artist date, where you take yourself out for a date. Well, I may have not taken myself out for a date, but I certainly bought a bunch of creative material from first Temu, and then I went over to the dollar store, and I just said, what's catching my eye, what can I didn't really even think I thought too much about it. I just said, what's catching my eye? I want to have a creativity session. I want to sit down, and this is absolutely play for me. This is me just testing my watercolors. Usually what I do when I get something new, like a watercolor palette, is I like to swatch. Whether it's watercolor palette, whether it's pencils, I like to take each color on a piece of paper and just swatch it out. And right here, I wanted to make something to go inside the gift basket for my cousin Michael, the gift box. And I was like, I have these watercolors. I bought so much stuff from Temu. I bought stickers that I want to start to collage and put into my artwork. All my books that I read, like The Artist's Way and Book of Awakening, they have notes in the outline, and they years of handwriting, years of different perspectives. I refuse to throw, not to throw away. I would never throw away the Book of Awakening. I wouldn't throw any book away. I refuse to get a new one. I've been carrying this book around with me now. It's now 11 years, and there's 11 years of material in that book. So the artist way begins with Julia Cameron telling you are creative. Every one of us is creative. Creativity is a gift, and using your gift is a gift back. And through her own journey, she wrote, let me see, this is like on page 13 of The Artist Way. She was writing about creating pathways, because the more you do, the more creative you become. That's anything, right? The more you cook, the better cook you become. The more you write, the better writer that you become. The more you sketch, the better you become at sketching. And in short, she wrote that whatever you're telling yourself doesn't matter. It's the practice that matters. And I have not picked up my paints in I don't know how long, and I have not, my rubber stamps, that's a little rubber stamp, and so I created my, just puddles of water and different color watercolors. They're slightly, the color is beautiful, the shimmer on them is gorgeous, but they're not really pigmented. I get some of my more pigmented watercolors out for one of the other blocks that is there, and I hit that with a dryer. That's actually an embossing gun, so I could actually stamp that image with embossing ink, not black ink, but embossing ink or any kind of pigment ink. And I could put an embossing powder on that, and I can take that embossing gun that you just saw me dry the watercolor with, and that would emboss it. It would give it a lifted image. So I put my watercolors on, and I wanted to hurry up and stamp, and I hit that with the embossing gun just to dry it, and then I stamped the image, and not going back. Didn't have to, but once you get your materials out that you haven't used in a long time, it's like, hello, this is really relaxing. This is just like my diamond painting is underneath there. She's covered up really well, but she's underneath there. And during the week I took out my Prismacolor pencils and I did some sketching, and I bought these paints like maybe a few months ago. I am sort of swatching there in that corner. I'm testing the colors because I'm going to put a little red on her cheeks and a little red on that little dress that says XOX on it. And watercolor always fascinates me. You can wet the paper and then wet your brush and wet your watercolors and go on a wet on wet, or you could do wet on dry. You can, here's a break right here. For some reason, my cat was fascinated with this embossing gun. He comes back and he gives it a beating. Every time I turned it on, he had to come and investigate it. And here are those really pigmented markers. They're from Jane Davenport. I have some pastels on the lower left-hand corner. I have to slow down. And they are watercolor pastels also. So that's just like one little drip of her ink. And I thought I was going to puddle that color. It's one of my favorites. It's called Jellyfish. And I could certainly deepen it, but you can take your paper and you can roll it around. You can move the water any way you want. I chose to move it around with the dryer, and take some more of these pigment inks. I have a beautiful journal. It's already completed where I use just 2 of these mermaid watercolor pens throughout the entire journal. I believe they were like an aqua, a beautiful teal, turquoise teal, and it was a beautiful gold. And throughout the entire book, I just made different shapes, and just those 2 colors were layered around my writing or sketches. The journal is beautiful. Just 2 colors. That's it, the entire journal. And it was just something like, every time I wanted to do something, they were the 2 markers that were in front of me. And so then it was just like, hey, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. And I love that journal. It's absolutely beautiful. So with this class, I had sectioned off a piece of watercolor paper. And what I'm doing is I'm taking out different water reactive mediums that I have, like these mermaid markers, like the new very metallic watercolors that I bought. That blue got everywhere. You'll see it's all over my arms. When I opened up the cap, it just splattered everywhere. So it splattered all over the other squares that are there, and I just went with it. I can put more water and I can lift it up. I have that little round facial cloth that I'm using. I get those from Temu, but they're really nice. I have just one, because I love them so much. I have one that's my brush is resting on, that I use to dab the water off my brush, that I use to dab some ink up with, or to smush things around, or to make patterns. I love this exercise of just having a block that represents a different medium. And so these are the aqua pastels from Jane Davenport. You can sketch with them, you can watercolor. So I'm going to do a sketch in the next block, so you could still see the sketch marks, but it is water reactive, but you can still see what I sketched out. So that's what makes them so nice. there was a line in, well, there's a lot of lines in the artist way when it comes to creativity. And Julia states that your creativity is
when
like
I
your
started
blood.
the artist way, just as blood is a fact
of your physical body,
I think I bought
and
this book
nothing you invented
in 1997.
Creativity is a fact, and of your spiritual body.
It took me,
and nothing you need to invent.
up until 2004. That's like what? 97, 2000, 7 years before I opened the book. I took it with me everywhere.
Oh, I actually had this book maybe in 1992. It was in 2004 that I actually opened it up. I can't remember. I can't remember if I had this book with me when I lived in Florida, because I took it everywhere with me. I bought it because every time I went into the bookstore, it just fell in front of me. It was either in the wrong spot, in the wrong aisle, on the counter. I kept going over to it, picking it up, putting it down, and then I was checking out books that I was buying, and it was on the counter because it was an anniversary issue, and it fell in front of me, and I picked it up and I said, "Here, ring this up too." She said, "Oh, you could just put it back." And I'm like, "No, just ring it up. I need to take this book home with me." And I carried it around, not carried it around. It went everywhere with me. Like when I moved, it was one of the things that moved with me. And it wasn't until I got to New York in 2004 that once I got settled in New York and I was in Battery Park, and I would go down to the promenade and I would sit and just look at the Statue of Liberty, and I would have all these thoughts about my family coming here and landing on Ellis Island. And I one day wanted to take a book with me and read. I had my two little Yorkies, Love and Honor, with me, and they used to like to sit on the bench and look at the Hudson River. And I said, I think I'm going to, it's a big book, so I know I didn't have the boys with me when Love and Honor, when I finally opened it up. I think I brought them inside, and then there was like a little beautiful place to sit outside of my apartment building, and I went there with a blanket and I took this book, and it began with Julia stating, "I began teaching the creativity workshops in New York. I taught them because I was told to teach them. One minute I was walking in the West Village on a cobblestone street with beautiful afternoon light. The next minute I suddenly knew that I should begin teaching people, groups of people, how to unblock. Maybe it was a wish exhaled on someone else's walk. Certainly Greenwich Village must contain a great density of artists, blocked and otherwise, than nearly any place else in America. I need to unblock," someone may have breathed out. "I know how to do it," I may have responded, picking up on the cue. My life has always included strong internal directives, marching orders, I call them. Well, when I read this like in a kind of a state where I couldn't believe the words that I was reading, because I was working in Greenwich Village. I was walking to work from where I lived in Battery Park. Sometimes I rode my bike to the village, and I would go out on these walks because where I worked, where the ink pad was, it was right off of Abington Square, and so I used to like to go out and go grab something to eat. There were so many restaurants and stuff, and I would always cut through the park, whether it was to go to like Village Pizza on 14th Street or any of the little French places that I used to love, to get a timbale or just a cappuccino or an espresso. And I was always by myself, and I would have these thoughts like the village being so crowded, and I had that same exact thought, like all these people, whether they've come from other places as a tourist, or they've came here with a dream, or they were born and raised here,
there were days that I felt like I was literally walking on their footsteps. I mean, I was, but not only walking on their footsteps, but picking up. I was so aware that I was picking up emotions that were left behind. There were walks that I had that felt very sad to me at times, and there were walks that I had that felt like I have the greatest idea in the world. But the walking is let me see here, Walking in This World is the second book, because I believe that Julia Cameron wanted to add walking as another tool for an artist. And I have done walking meditations with you. There is something with walking that clears your head. Those of you who have been with me, you know that, anytime I was really jacked up about something, I would go and talk to my grandmother about it, and she was just like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking this is slow for me. I'm speaking very slowly during this little session, but I speak really, really fast. And my grandmother would just be like overwhelmed with me. I'm a young girl, I'm very dramatic. And, I would come in and tell her about something, and she would be like, Elisa, go take a walk. You need to take a walk and clear your head. Just go take a walk. And then, like, take a long walk. And, it's the movement, it's the energy, it's, you're burning off, much like you're writing, much like when you do your stream of consciousness writing, and you're just dumping off your brain what you're thinking about. And that's what the walk is. The movement is so good. I love that Julia Cameron added this third tool to the Artist Way. So you have your writing, and you have your walking meditation, and then you have your artist date. And that's where you go out on a date by yourself, and you take yourself somewhere that you wanted to go, a new restaurant. Maybe you want to go to a movie. Maybe you want to go shopping for something. Maybe you just want to go for a walk with your cell phone and take a bunch of pictures. Anything that's going to fill the well where you are alone with your thoughts and your senses to experience whatever it is that you're doing with no one else's voice but your own. Because when you have someone else with you, you're engaging in conversation. It's not the same. You're missing things. You're listening to them. You're talking to them. If you're talking to them about what you're doing, then you have their perspective on what this is, and you don't want that. This is your time for all you do, for everyone else. Your family, your children, your significant others, your parents, your work people, your boss, your co-workers, people that you interact with, maybe, in your community, your community stores that you go to. You're always listening to someone, and the act of listening is an art, and it is also an act of giving. So this is something that you are doing. You are giving to you, and you're going out for your walk, and you go to a restaurant that you really wanted to go to and try out, and you get your senses come alive in a different way. You might be a little anxious, you might be a little scared, you might be like, I don't want to sit alone by myself. What will people think? Nobody's thinking about you. No one's saying, oh, look at that person over there by themselves. No one. Especially when you go out and you have something that you want to achieve, which is, I want to experience this restaurant. I want to take my time. I want to order something delicious to drink, whether it's ice cold water with a lime in it, or a lemon, or a soda, or maybe something that the restaurant specializes in, or an alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage. Whatever it is, your senses come alive because you are slowed down, and you're able to notice everything. So if we just use going out to a restaurant that you want to try before you go with any of your friends and all their gabbiness and chattiness, and you go, and then you take in the color and the sound and the people and where you're sitting and the lighting and the smells and how the table's set and what little special things they do and how things feel in your hand. And it's just a whole, you're so totally present for all of it. And then your waiter comes over, and I would absolutely recommend that you keep it short. And I love that people love what they do and they love people, but sometimes I don't want to have my waiter or waitress. Sometimes I don't want to have them right at my side. Like sometimes I feel like they're going to pull up a chair and sit down with me, and I just want maybe they think because you're by yourself that maybe you need some company, and which is very sweet, but just keep it short. Even if you have to like make believe pull your phone out like you're busy, but you're not. You're just you want your senses to take in everything. And some things might be really pleasurable, and some things you might say, I wouldn't have never even noticed this if I was with someone else. And you might even want to take out a little notepad and take some notes at what you're seeing and smelling and hearing. You might hear something funny at the next table, and you write it down. You want to remember it. Whatever it is, you might see something endearing between two people, or a parent and a child, or there's so much that is going on around you that we filter out because there is so much that we have to filter because we become overwhelmed. And then you get, your food, where again, you're going to slow down and you're going to taste your food, and you can write your little notes about it, and it's just such a wonderful experience. So you're going to be too busy to worry about what anybody else is thinking about you being in a restaurant by yourself. The one thing that I did have a problem with, and I try to get over my fear and anxiety and do it anyway. When I was living in New York, I went to a movie, and it was right in Battery Park City, but it was inside one of the trade centers, and you had to go up an escalator. First of all, this was a challenge for me, and so I had to walk there, which was like a few blocks from where I lived. I think it was like World Trade Center 1, maybe, I can't remember, and then you went in, which was already very emotional. There were a lot of pictures still around at that time, and I'm sure they are still there. A lot of artwork that was gifted in this trade center that was from other countries, and people that worked in this trade center that were no longer with us. And so you had to walk in, you had to walk through all that, and then you went into an escalator, and I think it was like on the 6th or 7th floor of the movie theater, and it's just like already like your nerves are shot, and I'm like, you got this far, buy the ticket and go in. And when I tell you there was like maybe me and like one other person, because it was during the day and in the middle of the week, and it was like big enough to hold like maybe 500 people. And then the lights go off and the screen is huge. I am so proud of myself that I sat through that, but I was anxious throughout probably 60% of it because you're trying to calm down, but you're also trying to keep your mind on the movie. And so your mind, like, I think when you have anxiety, like my anxiety wanders. My anxiety is like, if you had to get out of here, you'd have to go down, you'd have to go walk through this big place, and it's dark, and then you'd have to go down like 7 escalators to get down to the main floor, and your legs will probably be like jellyfish, and then it's a long walk home. Oh, I just like was this is us, we're creative, and so we create the worst case scenario, right? If we had to write a scene on anxiety, we would all win Oscars. But that's the artist. That's the artist state. This is where you take your artist out to either take pictures, study your composition, study your grid lines, play around with your settings, try different filters, make a few filters of your own, and you look for inspiration. When you're out and you see something that really catches your eye, snap it. What is it about it that you like? Is it the composition? Is it the colors in the photograph? Is it the font? Is it the way things were worded? There's so much around you already that you can fill your well with. And it's there. It's there for when you need to tap into it. I believe I stamped a little cat, and then it didn't come up so well, so I began to sketch the little cat face. I was looking at the rubber stamp and I was sketching it. And this is where my rubber stamp now becomes a sketch of my own. I had a little help, had a little training wheel there, but I continued on and sketched it out. And I love doing this too with a black. I think the archival pen was the one that worked the best, where you outline what you've just made, these little works of art, because you could cut them all up and you can use them in your journals, or you can use them in another piece of artwork, or you can put some pop dots on the back. We all know what pop dots are. We're using them in our diamond painting pens, and you could place them on another piece of paper, a piece of folded paper, and write a little note inside. The washi tape didn't have the sturdiness to really make some nice lines, but I like things that look sketchy. I didn't want to have like a very straight black line for any of that. I'm filling in the face a little bit, and I'm going really light because I don't like the harsh black lines with this very light shimmer watercolor. But she came out really cute. I didn't plan on what I was going to draw. I could have just made a bunch of circles, and I could have made one circle inside of another. I ended up making one heart inside the other, and it was the Jane Davenport watercolor pens, the mermaid markers, that had the most pigment. I think I may have even found some gold pigment, and I thought it was going to be really, really pigmented, and it wasn't. And I've been holding on to that water palette for I don't know how long. I think maybe when I lived in Philly and Pearl Craft Store was still on South Street, that's probably how long I've been holding on to that. This is another little trick that I do. I don't like raw edges, and so I'll take an ink pad. I have all different color ink pads, and I just run the ink pad along the sides of the cut edges. You can practice holding your ink pad all different ways to make it look a little bit more smudgy or distressed. I don't know if I missed that part, but I took my black pen and I was doing a little bit of an outline, and of course always sign your artwork. I took that black pen. I love to shadow my work. If I would have had a gray pencil, that's what I would have been using. But there's some metallic on there. But what I did was I just outlined with this juicy, fine tipped black pen, and before it could dry really quickly, I was smudging it out a little bit just to make a shadow, to make her lift up a little bit more. And I think I have this little hand punch that's like a heart. I would love just to punch all little hearts around there, paper punch all these little hearts. But I think what I'm going to do is punch a little heart on the top and weave a ribbon through, and maybe tie this around the mugs, or I bought him some, my cousin loves Starbucks coffee, so I wanted to get him a really good coffee. Not that Starbucks isn't good, but there's a lot better. I have to, expand his horizons a little bit. I would have gotten him La Colombe, but there was none of. It's really crazy. Like, some supermarkets carry La Colombe. Like, I think it's just one, which is the Acme, and then the other supermarket that I had nearby was ShopRite, and they don't. So yeah, they're not overwhelming the market, I guess.